Hey everyone, this is Real Estate Riches Podcast, and boy, is it going to be rich, full of the wealth and the tips and the tricks of all kinds of successful agents, because that's what you want to be, right? A business builder who has success in their business. Well, that's what we got going on here. And I'm going to have all kinds of agents, men, women, young or older, sharing all their stuff because there's technology, there's just how do you build your business? There's so many questions, right? So let's learn from some of the best. Gather your wealth and build your business. That's what this channel is all about. And I'm excited to bring it to you. I'm Kathy Byrnes and I'll be your host. And stay tuned. Let's get at it, right? Hey, I'm Kathy Byrnes and I'm here with Real Estate Riches. It's the first podcast. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about me so you can decide, do I want to even listen to this podcast or not? You may not, maybe you will. Some exciting stuff. My goal here in starting this whole podcast is to empower real estate agents to time and financial freedom. That's something that I didn't experience in real estate, and I've been doing it for 18 years. And so I'm going to share with you my story and my mission on how to help realtors in every aspect of this business level up, scale as they would. Now, if you're looking for one of those agents that's going to show you how to do this by cold calling like a machine, that's not me. I'm not knocking it because clearly it works. Scripts, all those things, they work. But that's not my avenue and it's not my plan. And yet, what I'm going to be doing on here is bringing all kinds of agents on. So even though that's not my style, I'm going to be interviewing agents from all different firms at EXP. That's the firm I'm with, and all different levels of production, because I want you to see how you can grow through that, how you can scale, how you can level up. And hopefully the end result will be that you can make some changes, you can see what's lacking in yours, you can find some gold in every single one and say, I'm going to take that one little nugget and I'm going to put it into my business and I'm going to scale. I'm going to scale at whatever your goal is. Mine, I want time and financial freedom, and I'll tell you, I'm pretty darn close to achieving that. And so that's why I want to give back. This is all about paying it forward. However, I am looking for agents that want to run with me with EXP. If that's not for you, don't worry about it. There's still plenty of stuff you're going to be able to hear on here that will be great and help you no matter what company you pick. And I'm not even going to talk about where the industry is or where the market is right now. I'm just going to talk about how I started and my story. And if it makes sense to you, then hang out with me and let's see if I can't help you. Okay. So in 2005, January 21st, 2005, right now it's January 10th. So in 11 days, I'll have my 19-year anniversary of moving to North Carolina from Michigan. And this time of year, very cold in Michigan. I was elated to leave. I was walking away from a lifestyle that did not serve me. And I had made mistakes. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go reinvent myself. My daughter lives in North Carolina. She said I could come live with her because I was broke, really broke. And yet I was very used to living a very high level of living, traveled all around the world, had all the stuff. Well, I walked away from all of that to start over. And I was 55. And I didn't know what I was going to do. My background was financial planning, so that helped me in a lot of ways. First of all, I had the sales skills. I had the people skills. I'd also been doing personal development since the 90s because of another story that happened. I'll share that later, even if you care. And all those steps, even walking away from a life that didn't serve me, where I take full responsibility for my part, not blaming anybody. What I'm very clear on is when things don't happen right in your life, you got to still take a look at yourself. What role did you play? How did you react? Did you decide to learn from it? Even if you were the victim. I was not a victim. I participated in my non-successful life and choices because I was really comfortable living the high-end life that I was living. And it was hard for me to walk away from that, but it wasn't healthy. And so I did. Moving on. So now I make that trek. I drive down the 13 hours from Michigan to North Carolina. And boy, was I in love when I got here because we could go golfing the very next day, which was exciting because it was warm. I'm like, what? This is great. And my daughter had asked her roommate to move out. She was just starting a brand new career in mortgages, and I was going to be a dependent on her. I had a little Social Security at the time, not Social Security, unemployment. I wasn't that old yet. I was 55 when I landed here. So starting over at 55, a lot of people have said to me, well, weren't you scared? Weren't you do it? How did you have the courage? For me, it was a different story. I was elated to start over. I was on fire to figure out what I was going to do. I did not know what I was going to do. For the first 6 months, my background was estate planning, as I mentioned. I got my insurance license here, and I worked for a company that was a bad company, and I ran all around North Carolina selling annuities because they had sold these people a trust. Turned out to be a very lack of integrity company. And I ended up helping shut it down in 7 states with the help of the attorney generals in North Carolina who worked with other attorney generals. And my daughter goes, Mom, you got to make some money. She'd let her roommate go, you know. So here I am taking over the space and not filling up with any money. And I was used to living pretty large. So all I was doing was redoing her closets and all that kind of nonsense. And she's like, go make some money. And I thought, oh, what can I even do? If I don't do the insurance, and I didn't want to do the investments again, I'd let that license go. And I thought, and that was a rough career anyway. I didn't do much of it, probably the last 4 or 5 years that I had it. And I thought, I'm not starting that over again. Oh, dear Lord. So then I said, well, let me go get my real estate license. And this is a little point here. I want to touch on that for 1 second. You know how easy it is to get your real estate license? Yes, the test is hard. And North Carolina is tougher than a lot of states. It doesn't take much money to do it. It does take a couple $1,000s to kind of get your business going by the time you paid your class fees, your MLS dues to get started. But now you got this little certificate and you don't know what the heck to do with it. And all these companies are saying, come work with us, but they're really not giving you much training. And they certainly weren't giving you much training back in 2006, which was the year that I actually started in real estate. I started with Coldwell Banker. I like the colors blue. Can you tell? I'm a blue girl. So their logo was blue and white. I liked it. I knew it from home. Back in Michigan, it was a big franchise all around town. And so I went in there with my license and they wanted me. And I'm like, okay. So I went to work for them. And so back then they had phone duty, which is smart. Okay. So phone duty meant that the franchisor, the office, had their phone number signs. You could have a rider with your name on it, at least with Coldwell Banker. For those riders, you went and got them yourself. But they paid for all the signs, but those signs had their name on it, right? And their phone number on it. But all the calling in off the sign where they would stop in a Coldwell Banker office because it was something that they knew. And so many people were moving into this area from all over the country that they were looking for things just like I did when I saw a friendly little Coldwell Banker sign. It felt a little like home, right? So people would call main line and agents would be allowed to work phone duty. Well, I volunteered every opening that there was because I was getting clients. I knew I had to help my daughter out. I was really a burden to her. She was, I think, 23, 24 years old at the time. And here I am, a burden. And that was the truth. Struggling to make a living and didn't realize how long it would take to get started. Now, that was 2006. So the market was climbing, right? So I'm just starting to I didn't do a whole lot of open houses back then. Did I do them? I would have done them if they were, but that doesn't stick in my head. It was more phone duty. And so Anyway, I was working that phone duty like crazy, and but I also was paying attention to the area. So that's my background with the financial planning. I thought, I'm going to figure out a territory of where I want to work because I knew that my net was the important thing. And that's another issue here. I want you to pay, I'm paying attention to net, and I'm also going to stay in my territory. First of all, I have very little gas money, right? I needed to stay in my little territory. And it made sense. If I was going to have a niche and where I could become an expert at that niche, then I needed to know it. So I remember one of the agents saying, you should probably just go preview homes. Well, I lived where at the time they were million and a half homes. Now they're like $5 million homes. And I could go preview them. And you would let them know that sorry, I got an itch here. You would let the agent know that it's a preview so that the sellers didn't have to leave if they didn't want to. They didn't have to worry about cleaning up the house. My goal was to just go get familiar with the territory that I was going to be working. Actually, a lot of those, especially the million plus, they wanted to know that you had a potential buyer. I didn't at that time. So calls would come in because our office covered a huge territory. And I did have to take some of those deals outside of my local area, which was hard because that was before GPSs. Garmin, if you remember that. Garmin's were brand new and they were not accurate because there was so much new construction going on here. You could end up in the back of a parking lot of a commercial building and you're trying to figure out where the heck you are. It was very challenging. Anyway, I digress. So I end up starting to get it going. I'm starting to make some money. I'm starting to do some stuff. My goal was clear to me. I was going to be a waterfront specialist. I'm from Michigan. I lived on the water when I left there. I wanted to get back on the water because I also knew that was a price point. So I made it a point to figure out how was I going to get a little waterfront cottage. Now those cottages were renting because a lot of people had them as extra homes. I thought, boy, what if I could rent a home? If I got one good sale, I could move out of my daughter's and I could go start renting a little waterfront cottage. And that'd be the beginning of my future, right? And so that was my mission. So anyway, what did it happen? 2007 hits. Now, by now, I've got some deals going and I've got one and it's $700,000. I was like, what? I'm going to be so rich, right? So I had the $700,000 deal happening and there was a little cottage that was for rent on the water and it was for rent for $1,200. But it was a short sale because the market had started to turn. So short sales were starting to happen. And I thought, I've got this $700,000 deal going, even though I was a 50-50 split. It was like having what, $350,000 home after the split and not even counting taxes. I didn't pay attention. I'll get to that later. So I thought, yeah, I could do this. I could do this. I'll not be a burden to my daughter anymore. She was starting to date some guy that she was thinking about marrying, and I was really going to be in the way here. And so I ended up getting this little cottage on the lake. Wow, was I excited. It was a refurbished garage. And it was in a cove, but it had a dock. And I was struggling when I was over there. And it was a short sale, as I recall. But I did negotiate with my lease that if they sold this, that they would pay me $2,000 to leave. Pretty smart, huh? And it came in handy because down the road they did. Can't remember how long I lived there, maybe 7 or 8 months. Because short sales, they don't happen fast. They would take a long time to process. And I was kind of counting on that. And while I lived there, I had some lean times because soon as I moved in, that whole $700,000 deal fell apart. Another important lesson, do not spend your money before you've been paid. That was my mistake. Again, life lesson number, gazillion number, whatever. Anyway, so now a friend of mine now was really good to me. And she goes, I park my boat way away and it would be so much more convenient if I could park closer. I'll pay you the same amount of money that I pay to park my boat at the marina. It was like 25 minutes away. I said, great. I didn't have a boat, certainly. I'm renting. And so that really helped me. It didn't cover my mortgage, but it was 50% of it. And it was a big, big help. I was selling homes, but by now I had decided Coldwell Banker wasn't for me. I just I wasn't making, um, I wasn't growing, I wasn't learning. What I found was all the big producers, they kind of closed their doors and they kept secrets. They'd even sit in the parking lot and discuss things, how they were going to do it, because they didn't want people to overhear. Everybody was competition in that particular office. Nice people, but everybody was competition. So I thought, I can't level up here. This isn't going to work for me, right? So I said, let me go. I went over there. They liked me. And supposedly you had to really interview a lot harder over there because there were higher producing agents over there. And that was the story at the time, right? Keller Williams wasn't even a blimp on the screen, really, that a lot of agents paid to, because it was becoming brand new at that time where agents were starting to hear more and more about it, but not when I first moved to Remax. So for me, I thought, man, I'm jumping to the top of the crowd. And there were two women that owned that franchise, and they were sharp as they could be. And they were much more giving in training. And one of the owners, Laura, she was really something. She was tough. She was scary. I don't mind telling you, she intimidated the daylights out of me. But I felt like, you know what? She's got a lot of wisdom here. She's clearly successful. She knows what she's doing. And she has a lot of high-end clients, and they just come to her. I want to be like her. I want to be like Laura. Maybe not scary, but the same kind of business modality, right? So she had a class, and the class was on expireds. There were a lot of expireds right then. And she said, this is how you're going to go get some business. You know, you can only count on the phone calls. So my sphere was minimal. And so I thought this was a good idea. So there was about 10 of us that showed up for the class. 10 didn't last because she, like I said, she was intimidating. If you didn't do what she said, she didn't have much patience for you, which I really respect now after being all in this business all this time. Laura, I get you now, because people will waste your time and tell you they want to do this business when they do not have the temperament for it. It takes a certain temperament to do real estate. That's a fact. And a lot of people won't run it like a business. This is a business for me. And anyway, so she says, you have to walk up to the door, knock on the door. And I didn't mean to say it out loud because remember, I said she intimidated me. I said, ooh, I don't think I can do that. Well, right next to me was this gal named Patty Betts. And Patty goes, I can do that. Nonchalantly. She was from Long Island, a lot tougher than me. And so Laura says, okay, you two go together, team up. And we didn't even know each other. We both worked in the same office, but we were both newer there, right? And so I thought, well, we need a system. So we're going to knock on the door. What's going to be the plan? So I came up with a system, and I created this sheet. And on the sheet, we had, because this is now 2008 or 2009, one of the other years. Anyway, so the plan was, because there were so many expireds, these homes would be on the market a year, year and a half. They wouldn't sell. They would go through multiple agents. They would go through price reductions like crazy. People were upside down and having to bring money to the table. Really, they lost around 29% of the value of their home because they had skyrocketed unrealistically. And this was an era of fraud, mortgage fraud. So people bought homes that really could never have afforded the home that they were in. So we decided we would work the waterfront homes down this one peninsula that both of us lived off. I had ended up moving out of that little cottage that I was in. It went into the short sale, and an agent had helped me get a little cottage on another spot. Really nice little cottage, 600 square feet. I felt like I was moving up because the other one was only 500 square feet. So I had 600 square feet, but I had 400 feet of main channel, private pie-shaped lot. It was friggin' heaven. Great big old tree at the end of the lot where I had my hammock out there. And because it was main channel, you could see all the activity of everything that was going on. It was a blast. I would sit there and watch them ride their boats, some of them crazy drunk, and there was a little baby island, maybe 15 feet around, and they would go park there and have like little mini picnics and stuff. And that was probably a football field from the corner of my point of my lot. I have a dock on my lock. It was very old and very rickety, and it was a floating dock. So whenever all these boats would go by, the thing would wave and wave like crazy. At one point, it even broke loose, but that's another story. Anyway, so all these fun things are happening on this lot. I am in absolute heaven that I get to live in this spot. And I'm like, I'm going to work this whole peninsula here. There were so many homes because it was a mile down and it had fingers of peninsulas because Lake Norman, where I live, is a man-made lake. So imagine they filled it in the early 60s. And so you could tell the depth of the water by the slope of the lot because that's how the water would fill up. Well, this particular peninsula was a premium peninsula in all of Mooresville, which was one of the towns that surrounded the lake. Patty, who ended up becoming my partner, my business partner, she lived down that same peninsula, and I just lived further down at the tip. So that became our territory. We said, you know what? Brawley School Road was the main road that led through a very high-end 900 home community that is now Trump Charlotte, waterfront golf course community. Very lovely. And we would drive past that where there would be all these other little fingers going off of waterfront and homes, but mostly you would turn on Tuscarora, which was our street. And that street was long to the point where it got to me. And it too had little fingers going off. And so Patty and I said, you know what? Saturday mornings, let's meet here. We'll get here around 8:30. We'll go through all the expireds of the week and we'll fill out this form. And on the form I had the seller's name. I didn't have a phone number yet because you couldn't get them very easily at all then. We didn't have emails. We had the price, but I also wanted to know what price did they start at because it told me where they were going. And when we would look these up, we would take the MLS sheets and divide them up and we would go through sheets and fill them out on the computer before we ever left. We wanted to know everything about this property before we got there. And we wanted to know, did they have money to play with? Because if they were upside down and having to bring money to the table, that would go into another stack. That would be a short sale conversation. And we became short sale certified and we work those as well, but not in the beginning. Now we are working with the ones who've got money, who want to move. The price point for those homes, because we did not go into the point, which was the Trump point is what it's called. At that time, Trump wasn't involved there. It was just the point. So anyway, those 900 homes had a lot of seasoned agents that worked that territory vigorously, and we did not want to compete with them. But there weren't a lot of agents that were going after all these little finger ones, like my little cottage, that were priced anywhere from 4 to 900,000. So that was our niche, the 4 to 900,000, because many of them were second homes. And when that market was climbing like crazy, people thought, we got extra money and we can qualify for that loan. Let's go have a waterfront home, even though they lived in Charlotte or they lived, a couple hours away, or even up north, they would come down to their little waterfront cottages. And these were not great homes necessarily that were on it. They were older homes. Now that evolved where they became newer because people would tear them down and stuff. However, what we were looking at is, we just want to move the properties. How can we do that? So the price point was 4 to 9. And so we would pull all those expired listings for the week that had happened down that whole stretch. And we would go fill out that form. We knew the price point. We knew if they had money to play. We evaluated what we thought was a fair price on this. And then we would just write any notes. We'd write notes like, who was the realtor? How many realtors had they had before us? What we'd evaluate even the pictures that were taken. That time you could only take 8 pictures to show a home. Now we get, I think it's 45. And so it was a minimal presentation. Docs were very important, that you knew if the doc was legal or not. That was also not so important back then as it became to be through this period of time, because there were lawsuits starting to happen as a result of people finding out their docs weren't legal. So Patty and I would gather all this information together. I would put it in order of the streets going up one side and coming down the next. Then we got clipboards, and on the back it had a realtor sticker on it because we didn't want them to think we were somebody else. We wanted them to know we were realtors. We had our little badges on, and we would go knock on the door, and we would go up one side and down the other. And our agenda was, how do we get their phone number? We want either an appointment or phone number or an email. We wanted something so that we could carry it on, right? And so we just say, hey, we just saw that your home just came off the market. Do you still want to sell? And most of the time they were friendly, although we had many people who wouldn't even come to the door, but we could see them in there. We knew they were there. So we would work that, and we started to do well until one Saturday morning. Now this is NASCAR territory here, right? And a lot of people move from the north, and like me, from Michigan. This is Car City here. Holy cow. So now Patty, she pulls in one Saturday morning in a 65 fully restored vet, convertible, side pipes, headers, loud, stunning. And I'm like, oh my God, girl, are you kidding me? This is the holy grail of marketing. Oh my God, we're going to do so good here. So very first time we go out, we pull into this. It was $1.8 million house on the main channel, and I didn't know if we had a shot at this at all. But they came running out the door. What's this noise? We got that listing. I'll tell you what, and that was the first one of many to come, because once you get one, now you start to get more. And we got more, and we became a reputation of waterfront specialists. And also, here's the other important thing. We learned that water. Remember I told you about those piers being legal and not legal? Well, there were setbacks. There were so many rules on a man-made lake that Duke owns here that you had to follow. And people, when this whole lake was built, this was like the Wild West. This was way out in the country. These were farm fields that were all filled in. There's roads underneath there. There's buildings underneath there. There's all kinds of stuff underneath there. So knowing the rules was critical. And both of us now lived on the water, and we were in this whole peninsula that we were targeting. And believe me, there were tons and tons and tons of waterfronts that were going up for sale. We also started to work the short sales. We became certified because the market was really getting rough. It was hard to find buyers for even if they were priced right. It was hard to find buyers. So, but short sales, because they were being brutalized on the price, there were buyers that were willing to buy those. And what happened back then, you didn't just have one mortgage. You had one, two, and sometimes three mortgages on one property. So lender number three was really going to get messed up. They weren't getting any money. Lender two might get some, and lender one was saying, I want as much of the money as I can get, and I don't care about two or three. But two or three had to sign off so the one could even get it. So sometimes they would agree to a little bit so that they could get their money. And then once they got that, sometimes we would get the listing. Not always, but sometimes. But we got the listing, but sometimes we would get the buyers as a result of that. So we became very good at that. And during those very rough years, Patty and I, now we're partners, we really excelled. We built a great business for ourselves. And we were at Remax for 7 years. We're doing really well. The market's now starting to come around. Things are hopping. We're feeling really good about life. And we are asked to come check out another little franchise that had just moved into the area. I watched all our money that we spend, and when we were at Remax, I saw the fees that we were spending, and I thought, what are we getting here anymore? Because there's no collaboration by other agents there. And there were a few classes that Laura would still do. I mean, she was my hero. We did have phone duty there, and I did do that. I got my first $1 million listing actually on phone duty. That's another story. I'll tell you that later. But anyway, that was very exciting to be able to have phone duty and get those kinds of deals. So now Patty and I have been introduced to this other franchise. We didn't think we wanted to do it, but I crunched the numbers. I said, Patty, we would have each made $25,000 more a year. that was pretty good. We liked it. And I said, we're not really getting anything over here. We've really branded ourselves. Let's go over there. So we went over there. And it was not all a bed of roses like we'd hoped. We did start a collaboration at the office. They were open to it initially, where agents would share how to do business better, because there were a lot of newer agents there. And, I'm a teacher at heart. Let me help level you up. Let me help you scale, and built some good friendships there. And I was one of the top producers. You also got paid a piece of the commission. If they came over, you would get a piece of that commission that was paid to the company. And I like that, because that was over and above what I was making. So if people can make money over here and they like it over here, this makes sense. And we brought quite a few agents over, and so we were getting it. The difference between a privately held company is transparency. And I never felt that the numbers were right. I never got to see the numbers. It was very frustrating. Many other things were frustrating in that office. And at the end, it turned out that Patty decided she didn't want to be partners anymore. She went her way, which was fine. Every one of these things that have happened in my life, these are all good things. I had no ill will toward Patty. We had a great partnership for 7 years, built a nice business together. We split up our business at the time, and the different properties that we had. And we were one of the top agents in the office. There were a couple others in there as well, but we were one of the top ones. Well, when I really butted heads with one of the owners, he was not a real estate agent ever. He came from a corporate background, and he partnered with a realtor, a seasoned realtor. And that non-realtor and we really butted heads. He wanted to run that place like we were his employees. I said, I'm not your employee here. Holding my license here, that I am an entrepreneur. This is my business. So we would fight. And so I questioned his integrity at the end, and I really questioned it. And they asked if I wanted to discuss it anymore. I'd already discussed it with the other partner. And I said, no, I don't want to discuss it with the one that I had issues with. I said, I'm done. And so they said, well, you need to go. So I was fired. I said, oh, okay. Wasn't expecting that. So anyway, and that was all okay too. Each one of these things, as I said, it was a gift. And I'm not bad mouthing that company, because I could say it right on here if I was, but I'm not. I wish every step of the way, I'm grateful for each one of these challenges. So I now am like, oh, okay, I better figure this out, because I only had like 48 hours to move my license, get all these deals going. They weren't going to fight me on any of my business. That was very cool. And so I ended up going to KW. I didn't want to. I'll tell you another story, as you'll probably hear. All these different companies badmouth all the competition, and they psychologically do something to the agent, making the agent think, yeah, they are bad. They're not bad. You're believing the garbage because the owners don't want you to leave. And that was a big aha to me that I didn't recognize until I actually came to KW. They were not the horror that Remax painted them out to be, at least at our office. And I don't even think it was my owners that thought that so much. I think that's corporate on down that tries to get that mindset. And so that everybody has the mindset, don't ever leave us, don't ever leave us. And so anyway, I was over there, and friends of mine whose team I am on now had asked me if I wanted early mentor. The timing wasn't right, so I said no. But now I'm over there. I no longer have my business partner. I'm trying to run my business by myself, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to move forward. Well, I did it, and KW offered me a coaching position for the agents there, and I said, well, let me see what it looks like. And so I went and looked at it. They were going to pay me 10% of all the brand new agents, because a lot of brand new agents come to KW because of training. They hear that there's going to be great training and coaching, but they have to pay for it. Of course, it was 10%. I was going to get 10%. They were going to be locked into a contract with me for 1 year to do this, but I was going to be following their protocol of coaching. And when I saw it, I didn't like it. I thought it was very dated. And now I forget how many years ago that was. It's probably 9 years ago. So things have changed. Anyway, it was very dated. I didn't want any part of it. It wasn't going to be how I would coach agents. And I needed the money too. So that was frustrating. Well, anyway, Craig and Shelley, because I'm on the Paige Johnson team, asked me to come on their team. 2 weeks later, they said, we're going to EXP. I said, what is that? I didn't know. And at this point, I also had just taken on my mother who had dementia, who had just gone and rescued out of Georgia and brought her up here. She had a little dog. Oh, another whole story. Anyway, I was kind of spent. And I knew these people, Craig and Shelley, they were a mega team in the area, very well respected, and they wanted me to be a mentor on their team. And I could still run my business, and they would let me pretend like I was a boss, which is important to me. And anyway, so I said yes. And 2 weeks later, they said they were going to EXP. And I'm like, okay, whatever, I'll just go. So I did. And so that was the greatest gift that ever happened to me. And I'm going to get into more about EXP as we go on through these different podcasts. It's changed my life because of the stock, of the collaboration on steroids like I've never seen before. And it's been such a blessing to give me financial freedom like I never expected. I always thought I'd be living in my daughter's backyard in her shed, turned into a mini tiny house overlooking her pool. And hope, I really didn't see hope. But EXP gave me great hope. It showed me that I could make a difference. And that's what I'm looking to do. I'm looking for people who want to run with me and want to learn that. But in the meantime, help you level up. If I can help you do better in your business, that's what I want to do. And so that's why the guests are going to be special. So they'll be recorded because they'll be on here, they'll be in podcasts, they'll be on YouTube, and you'll be able to hear them. So that's what you can expect is going to happen here. So I do hope you subscribe. I do hope you share this. I do hope you make comments. I'd love to hear your feedback because a lot of people have started second careers and they're scared. They don't know where they're going to get the right kind of training. And you can come here. You'll get a lot of information. So I look forward to becoming friends, everybody. So thanks for joining me on this episode of Real Estate Riches. Wasn't that great? I'm sure you got a nugget or two. I know I did. So if you liked it, please subscribe below, share it with everybody, make some comments. We really find that invaluable. And if you're thinking that you would love to talk about this a little bit more, let's schedule a business strategy call. I'll have the link below. And let's see if we can't mastermind together and see if we can empower each other. That would be great. So until next time, signing off. Hope to see you on the next one.